So, Margaret, one thing we haven't talked about is your editorial work, which you've done a great deal, I think, particularly for SIAM journals, and in particular, you reorganized SIAM Review. Perhaps you could tell us something about about all that.
One of the things I'm very interested in is exposition. So having co-written 2 books and papers, I care a lot about clear explanations and so on. So I've been editors of journals for SIAM and for the Mathematical Programming Society. And that's another thing that's very time-consuming, but I think it's worthwhile because the quality of those journals is a direct reflection of the quality of the research that the society is interested in, and I think it's important, especially for SIAM because I was so heavily involved in that. So I've been an editor of the SIAM Journal on Scientific Computing and the SIAM Journal on Optimization, and the flagship journal of SIAM, SIAM Review, was a journal that had been around for a long, long time since the society started in '52. And at some point, it was decided that it needed to be looked at. There were sections of it that had been really important that were not felt to be so important, and there was a concern that it wasn't a very good flagship journal. Okay, so there was a committee that was put in charge of looking at SIAM Review and deciding what to do about it. They're the ones that really did the main work and said, we should redo this section, we should redo that. Now, there are a lot of things which are sort of redoing for its own sake. You know, people say we need a fresh start, and sometimes it's not very good, and sometimes you hate it. Every time I get a notice that says we've redone our website, I usually groan and I think, oh no, I have to look at this new website. But in the case of SIAM Review, I think it was important. So I was asked to be the editor-in-chief of the new SIAM Review. And I felt it was essential because there were separate sections, this review and survey part, the new stuff, the education section. I thought it was absolutely essential to have section editors who would basically be responsible for those sections. I think it's fine to have top-down management in some areas, but in this case, I wanted absolutely top people to do this, and they wouldn't have agreed if I was sort of going to be in control. So I invited people that I thought were terrific to do that, and I said, basically, this is the charge of the new section. Let's talk about how you would do it. You can sort of run it. And they all agreed to do it. And I think that was very successful. And the journal had a new cover. I confess I had something to do with the colors and so on the cover. But basically it was the section editors that did the most of the work. They would call on me when things came up that there were problems about. But basically it was an interesting example where I don't take any credit for doing that because I think it was their good work. The only thing I can take credit for is picking them to do it. And I think most people are happy with it. But since then, things have changed. I mean, you can't keep the same format forever. Things change. The online publishing, websites, and so on have made a big difference in publication. And so I'm happy SIAM Review is still highly cited and still regarded as good.
Have you taken much interest in this new all-electronic journal that SIAM has?
Not so much. I mean, I was chair of the publications committee, the journals committee, and we considered the options of having an all-electronic journal, and I think for some areas, like dynamical systems, where there's a huge emphasis on animations and visualization and active things, which you just can't do in print. I thought it was very important to do that.
And that's been successful,
And that's been very successful. But again, it's really the people, it's the top quality editorial board to do it. SIAM has had a tradition of not having dictatorial editors-in-chief. I think some other journals, the editor-in-chief is kind of the super boss and tells everybody what to do. That can be okay if the person is exceptional, but I think often they have a hard time finding other people to work with them for obvious reasons. And SIAM tries very hard not to do that.